I have stage 4 lung cancer and I never smoked. I believe that if I never worked in a casino, I wouldn't have lung cancer. It was my choice to work there, but it wasn't my choice to breathe cancer-causing chemicals. Breathing isn't a choice, no matter where you work. I'd worked in casinos for over 22 years, and I'd been around secondhand smoke for all that time. I started out as a change attendant in the slot department, and so of course I was surrounded by the smoke. Through the years, I was promoted, and my last position was that of a slot director. As a slot director, I was in a smoke-free office when I was in my office, but you have to spend time on the floor, both with your guests and with your team members. And on Friday and Saturday nights, which are our busiest nights, then you were out on the floor full time.
The gaming industry offers some of the best professional opportunities available today. It is a fast-paced and exciting industry. Gaming industry employees receive highly competitive salaries and oftentimes good benefits. Why do people work in casinos? Like the rest of us, they have bills to pay and families to support. No one should have to choose between their health and a paycheck. Unfortunately, for many workers in the casino industry, that is what they do each day when they go to work. Each year, 50 million non-smoking casino patrons and 400,000 non-smoking casino workers gamble with their lives inside casinos that allow smoking.
The doctor came in and told me that I had stage 4 lung cancer. I was arguing with him because I couldn't possibly have stage 4 lung cancer. Up until the flu virus, I had been working out at the gym 6 days a week. I had been doing cardio and I had been working out with a trainer. I hadn't coughed, I hadn't shown any signs of what I would think a person would show if they had lung cancer. I shouldn't have been able to breathe while I was doing some of those exercises. He said he saw cancer. He said that my chest wall, my flora of my lung, and other areas, including my rib, were just studded with cancer growing. Fortunately for me, over that period of time, I had relatives and friends who were coming by to see me, so I didn't have a whole lot of time to really think about it. But it was in the back of my mind that I had stage 4 lung cancer. You just don't feel cancer until it's too late.
I had never smoked cigarettes in my life, so after tests and questions, it had been deemed that this was from secondhand smoke, since I had worked in casinos for over a third of my life.
There are several ways that you can get lung cancer, but the primary cause of lung cancer seems to be smoke from cigarettes. I believe that I got lung cancer because I worked in casinos for so many years and breathed in the secondhand smoke. When you don't smoke and you come home and you take your clothes off and then you open your closet door the next day and you smell the smoke, that's when you realize how much the smoke is infiltrating you. The smoke in the casinos is quite a problem, and it's not just lung cancer. Other people get COPD, they get asthma. Smoke from cigarettes causes heart problems. So there's a myriad of medical problems that are caused by smoke. I actually had my first chemotherapy in the hospital, and for me, the side effects were really, really bad. I had all kinds of things that were happening to me at that time, but I got through it. And I kept going back. I went back for a total of 8 treatments. Once I got past that, I really thought that I was on the downhill. I knew that my chances of survival were really slim. I had 1 cancer tumor left. I started getting pain in my right lung, and I went to see my regular doctor. She put me through some tests and then she had me go take an x-ray. The x-ray looked strange, so she had me go back to my oncologist. He ordered a CAT scan. The CAT scan showed that I had 10 new tumor growths. The medication was no longer working on my cancer, and now I had a large amount of cancer in my right lung. They immediately put me on IV chemo again.
I went home from the hospital with no job and an understanding that in the condition I was in, there was no way I could put in 60 to 80 hours a week and work with the intensity level that I had previously worked at. Not only that, but with the high incidence of reoccurring lung cancer lurking in the background, I didn't want to go back to the environment that had contributed to my disease to start with.
After I was let go due to situations other than my health, because the economy was getting bad, I wasn't able to go on another affordable insurance. The company didn't feel like they owed me anything, so there was no one there to help me. I'm going to have to let the house go into foreclosure, and I'm just letting everything go like so many other people because I can no longer afford to live here.
Can you imagine what it would be like to hold your mother in your arms as she took her last breath? Would you have the bravery to give her or your father the last dose of morphine, knowing that that would be the last one? I don't think people understand how hard it is to have a loved one in your arms as they take that final breath. And you know that she could have been saved had we had more people like we have now on the ground floor making the changes that needed to be made. I hope that these legislators that are out there, the people that we are voting in to protect us, understand the true responsibility that we're giving them and understand that they have to be heroic. They have to make the stand. They have to be willing to say, I'm going to be the difference, instead of, I'm going to be the difference while you're voting for me, and then taking a back seat to that heroism that they spoke so proudly of while they were running for office. We all need to be heroic. We all need to do things that maybe aren't comfortable in order to make this happen. We can't just idly stand by, specifically with these casino workers and the entertainment industry. We can't idly stand by and allow this to continue. Yes, they do what they do because they typically love it, or maybe they do what they do because they don't have a choice. So why do they need to go into work and be exposed when the people who work in an office don't? You know, perhaps they could go get another job, but we all know what the economy is like right now. And for somebody who can't afford to get a higher education, a casino job is a great job for them. It's just a shame, really, that they have to choose a great job versus their health.
The most effective way to protect casino employees and patrons from the harms of secondhand smoke is to enact comprehensive smoke-free air laws. Many communities and states are expanding smoke-free air law to protect these workers. Over 500 gambling establishments in the U.S. are already 100% smoke-free, and the list is growing all the time. Despite smoke-free opponents' claims of economic doomsday, smoke-free laws do not harm casinos or other gambling venues, just as they do not harm restaurants, bars, or bingo parlors.
It's 22 states now that do have smoke-free gaming, and I applaud them for having the bravery to stand up to the rest of the country and the rest of the gaming industry globally and say, we are not going to harm our employees, and the understanding that they are saving money in their pockets every time they decide to go smoke-free, because you're now giving your employees a healthy environment to work in.
By allowing smoking, the cost of doing business increases through increased health and life insurance premiums, workers' comp, worker absenteeism, and lower work productivity. Studies of communities following the passage of a comprehensive smoke-free air law demonstrate a dramatic reduction in heart attacks by as much as 47%.
How do you make a money-making industry understand that every day they are putting their employees in harm's way to make the billions of dollars that they're making. When you have people that are in the positions that they're in, they're making that money too. And I think that they're willing to trade the souls of the people that work for them for the almighty dollar. They absolutely have put a price tag on their casino workers, and shame on them. You know, I've seen it across the country where smaller communities who have a casino or two casinos are getting $14 million a year in revenue for, and I'm thinking of one specifically, $14 million in revenue to help their city parks and to help their community service and to help all of the things that they can come up with. They've got better police cars. While we're talking about changing the world around us, I think it's important to talk about my mother's favorite saying, and that was, "What would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail?" And I think if more of us embraced that saying around this type of legislation, and the understanding that there is not one single solitary person on this planet who deserves to have to work in an environment that's going to kill them eventually, and in a much shorter time than they would normally have, I think that we might be able to actually break the barrier. But we all have to put on our brave faces. We all have to be heroic. We all have to understand that we can do this if we believe in it. I am from St. Louis area, but my mother was born here in Evansville. My mother was a casino worker, and so was I in Las Vegas. You know, in the 1980s, when we worked in the casino, secondhand smoke was not an issue. We didn't talk about it. We didn't know what the dangers were. In the 1990s, the Surgeon General came out with reports and started talking about what the dangers of secondhand smoke were. But you know, then we were told by the casino executives, which I was not one yet, that the filtration systems would protect us, that would be okay. The ventilation systems were state of the art, and it was getting the smoke out of the air every 15 minutes and recycling the air. And by the 2000s, we knew the truth. Now, my mother stayed in the casino industry because she loved her job. She loved her job because in early 1980s, my father lost his life. She had a 10-year-old son she had to raise. She loved her job because it gave her the ability to do things in the not-for-profit community. She loved her job because she was good at it. She went from being a part-time change girl to an executive. She was one of the first women to run a slot floor in Las Vegas, and that was something back in those days. I too followed in her footsteps and got into the casino industry, only I went a different way. I became a legal bookie. I ran race and sports. I ran numbers. You can't do that anywhere but the state of Nevada. I loved my job, and I raised my family on it. But little did I know that I was being exposed to what I was being exposed to. They posted me as a survivor, and I had to think about that. Was I a survivor? Well, you betcha. I spent 18 years in the casino industry, and I'm here to talk about it today with all of you. My mother was not so fortunate. And I apologize if I break up because it's still very raw. In 2008, she was diagnosed with lung cancer. She had never smoked a day in her life, and her first words to me were, "Holy cow, I guess they were right. 23 years in the casino industry, and here I am being diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer." Well, my mother went through her chemotherapy, and my mother decided she was going to speak out. She did a PSA for SmokeFree Gaming, and she was adamant about protecting the casino workers and protecting the people that she had worked side by side with and the people she didn't even know. 4 days before she passed away in April of 2010, she asked me, "Will you carry this torch for me?" Well, I am here carrying that torch. And whatever decisions you make tonight to exempt the casino, not exempt the casino, I will continue to carry that torch. I speak on her behalf in 5 different states right now, and if I need to speak in more, I will. But I can tell you this, if there is an exemption made for the casino tonight, you will see my face again. And I will continue to come back until such time that all workers are protected. My mother had a favorite saying, "What will you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail?" Well, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot fail to protect workers across this great nation and right here in Evansville. Thank you. I hope that I have the brave heart that my mother did to continue this work. I grasp at every opportunity to continue her work. And again, it's not easy sometimes. I have to relive my mother's death every time I do this. And it's no easy thing. She was a wonderful woman. She was amazing. She was my hero. So I hope that I can continue to do her work. I hope that someday we can actually see a country that all workers are protected, including the casino workers. She raised me to be strong. She raised me to be a person who did not fade into the shadows, but to be a person who led the charge and a person who was willing to be brave when other people could not be brave. And that's what I feel like I'm doing here, especially for those casino workers that can't speak for themselves. My mother was one of those people who, when she made a decision, and decisions didn't come lightly for her, she always thought things through. And she made a decision that the casino industry really saved her. You know, when my father died, the casino industry was there for her. And she was left with an 11-year-old son. And here was a woman who, she had some education, but she did not have a degree. She went from working as a part-time change girl to full-time with benefits. She was able to provide for my brother as they settled into their new life without my father. She then made her first supervisor position, and she was one of the first women to do so in the casino industry nationally. And then they promoted her again and again and again, and eventually she ended up being the first woman to run a slot floor in this country. She was running the #1 money-earning slot floor in Las Vegas. She had become a superstar, and it was not by accident. My mother was a superstar. She saw an opportunity and she seized it. She was trained in all sorts of things. She was trained in management. She absolutely loved the people she worked with and worked for. And I have to not just respect that, but I look at her as a hero. She made a decision in her life to follow that path. She followed it to the very nth degree. And at the end, she paved a path for women in the casino industry.
I knew that I had made my choice as to my profession. I could either blame the casino for my misfortune, or I could take responsibility for the choices that had led me to this point. In my mind, blaming would be a negative toward my healing, and taking responsibility would be the path for healing faster. As I explored that thought, I also realized that if I could have chosen a different path, I would not have done so. The relationships that I had built through the years and the difference I had been able to make in others' lives, not to mention the difference this career has made in my life, was worth more to me than the current consequences. Besides, I would not be the person I am today if I had taken a different path, and I like who I am.
And when she says that she doesn't want to blame the industry, I think she's right. You make a decision. As an employee, you make a decision. You hope, though, along the way, that what you're being told is the truth. I worked in the casino industry, and in the 80s, they told us that smoke wasn't dangerous. And in the 90s, they decided that, there might be some side effects, so we're going to put in these massive smoke eaters. And then in the 2000s is when the truth came out, and by then she had a 20-year career underneath her. She wasn't going to leave what she knew, and she wasn't going to leave the people that had entrusted their lives to her, and she wasn't going to leave the opportunity to train other people to do the job that she so loved. My mother was not one to cast blame. There were several people, including myself in those days, that were smokers. I thankfully quit 7 years ago, long before her lung cancer was ever discovered. Smoking, we know, is addictive. It's part of a disease. She understood that, and she chose, rather than placing blame on them, to encompass them the same way that she encompassed everybody in her life. She loved everyone. There was not a single solitary person that she met that she didn't say a kind word about. She never would have cast blame on anyone. She didn't cast blame on the casino. She didn't cast blame on the smokers. What she did was instead found an opportunity every chance she could to do something about it.
Even in the absence of a smoke-free law, casino employees may take legal action against their employers if they are injured by secondhand smoke exposure. In December 2010, Tropicana Casino and Resort paid $4.5 million in damages to settle a lawsuit over secondhand smoke. The same recipient of this lawsuit was fired a week after he spoke out against secondhand smoke in his workplace. More and more cases like this will end up costing casinos and governments millions if workers are not adequately protected from secondhand smoke.
I come to realize that it is a blessing because even though she's not with us anymore, I have this amazing story to tell. And I have so many casino workers, not just workers, like I said, in the office buildings, but I have so many casino workers that need my help because so many of them are not allowed to speak out. So many of them are not allowed to have an opinion or they're going to lose their job. They're threatened on a regular basis. And so I know now that the gift that she left behind was her life and the ability to go out and tell her story and continue attempting to save those lives that she so vehemently wanted to save when she was still with us and struggling through her own cancer. My mother made a conscientious decision before she even left the hospital that she wanted to make sure that her fate was not the fate of future casino workers.
Do I believe that I'm going to die from this someday? Yes, I do. I believe that there's a purpose for me, and as long as God has a purpose for me and I'm serving His purpose, I will still be here. When my purpose is done, then He will call me home.
It takes a community of casino workers and other concerned individuals to believe in it in order to make change. We owe a tremendous amount of gratitude to Cheryl and Buffy for being advocates and standing up for those who can't because they fear losing their job if they take a public stand. SmokeFree Evansville urges policymakers and community leaders to support smoke-free efforts so we can save the lives of those most vulnerable to secondhand smoke. 86% of residents surveyed agree all Evansville workers, including casino workers, should be protected from secondhand smoke in the workplace. Let's join together to make this a reality. Visit SmokeFreeCommunities.com to get involved or email itpcsmokefree@hotmail.com for more information.
The casinos need to face the reality that they're a public building, and just like other public buildings, they should be smoke-free. They should not have the right to smoke wherever they want. They shouldn't have the right to make other people ill.